Want to be mindful. We want to be mindful of everybody's time. So congratulations for showing up, everybody, for week 2. We're excited to be here. If you're watching the recording or if you're here this week, make sure you got your whys written down. Yeah. Guys, I've got a picture of this on my phone. It's actually my home screen. I've read them every day this week. And, and I will say the scale is moving. I've already cranked up 1 belt notch on the belt. It's only day 4 for me. And so I'm feeling really good. So with that said, element 2, knowing what you want to accomplish. So of course, mindset, skill set, and actions, we'll dive right in. So mindset, of course, is identify what you want.
Not what you need.
Sorry?
What you want.
Correct. What you want. And of course, the mindset, the skill set basically is developing a strategy to help you start creating your desired change. And then of course, the action, which is my favorite part, explore how ready, confident, and willing you are to engage in each one of the 6 macro habits of health. So that's where we'll get started. Go ahead, Allie.
So one of the things I wrote down from us doing this a couple of times before together was moving my mindset from how can I use this to how must I use this, right? How must I use it? Not how can, because can leaves a lot of openings for, well, I could do this or can do that, but must means this is the way I got to do it to get it done, right? It must go down like this. And I want it to, and the must has got to be there, right? Because that's how you get that action that overrides that emotion that tempers our action, and it goes into, no, this is what I said I want, and this is what I must do to get there. Our goal is to create immense satisfaction. So for any of you who have done this program for a while, or maybe have coached now for a while, I know we have all experienced points in this journey of immense satisfaction. That is a lot of time what motivates us. I mean, when you do something that your old emotional brain used to tell you you can't do, and you conquer it like a you know what, that is some immense satisfaction. And that self-doubt, that inner, it shuts down that nasty inner voice that tells you, no, you can't do that. Yeah, I can. And I'll do it again. So I love that. I love that immense satisfaction. And I love how Dr. A says, it's not just for your personal life, but you're going to find that it bleeds over into your professional life too. Like this can be used across the board. This book is going to do stuff that's going to build up you in so many different ways. I also know that the intervention you're making may be occurring at an inconvenient time. How many people have felt like that? Right? If we waited for a convenient time to do this for ourselves, to pour into ourselves, to fight for this, for what we want, if we waited for the perfect time for life to quiet down, for the chaos, let me tell you what, it does not. It does not. So what we've got to do is we've got to learn how to build that firm footing in the chaos. Chaos isn't going anywhere. So that's what we're going to talk about in here. The truth is there's never a good time to change your familiar routines and habits. There's never a good time, but if they're currently leading you to poorer health and well-being, there'll never be a better time than right now, right? Hard, you're doing hard. So you can do hard that points you in a better direction, or you can do hard that makes you sick. So it just depends on which way you want to take that. I love how he goes into your daily choices. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, and about our readiness ruler. But, you know, sometimes I like to think of it like this, and this is a little biblical, so forgive me here, but this is just a good story. A lot of y'all know the story of Moses, right? And the Pharaoh releases the Jews and they flee out of Egypt, right? And all these crazy things happen, and they know they're going to a better place. But halfway to the better place, they start talking about how they want to go back into slavery, because slavery, they know. And it had its really horrible parts, but they had gotten used to living in that horrible place. And it was a familiar thing to them. They couldn't see yet what the promised land was like, right? So it makes no sense, but they wanted to go back to slavery. So we all have those moments where we're moving along on our journey and we might get to one of these healthy habits we need to work on. And it's a little like peeling off a Band-Aid, and we get a little like, I'm moving away from something that's been familiar to me for a really long time, even though it doesn't serve me, even though it's making me sick, even though I know I hate it. That feels unfamiliar. And you just got to stick with it. You've got to trust that it's better if you keep doing that hard, but doing it moving in a better direction.
Allie, and I think it's great too. If you've got your whys written down, just like I said, many of us think in pictures, we pretty much all do for that matter. You know, for me, it's putting that picture of me at the graduation or me at the wedding later. I keep going back to that picture. You know, if I had that temptation or somebody walks up and offers me something, somebody did at the ball field tonight, I was like, no, I'm good, you know, but I put that picture in the forefront of my mind because my whys are fresh because I've read them daily.
Those pictures override that impulse. Like they stop it, they pause it, because you're like, oh, wait. It's that stop, challenge, and choose moment. You know, that happens. And it gives you a chance to go, is this really what I want? You know, I know I might want it in the moment, but is it going to serve me long term? So here's a great place to start. So on page 53, and throughout the rest of this element, Dr. A has put in these readiness rulers. I've got a great idea, because if you're like Kenny and I, and you really are going to take advantage of this life book, you're going to go through it cover to cover, probably a lot of times, or you might revisit places frequently throughout even just that journey from element 1 to element 26. Pick a color pen like red or green, something off, and at the top of the page, put, make a little line with that color and write the date that you fill out this survey. So when you come back later and you take it again with a different color ink, you can see where you've changed, where you've grown. You can see where you're still like, oh, I could put some more effort in there. I'm not at a 10 yet, right? So that's one of the things I want to suggest for you as you go through this is pick a color pen and put the date at the top of the page from when you fill these out. So we've got this readiness ruler, and Dr. A is real honest. He tells it like it is. If your score is less than 7 and your current level of motivation is probably not high enough to support the focus and energy you need to make meaningful change to your health and well-being. That's kind of hard to stomach. So then he says, I'd suggest you go back to the first element and redefine that why. Maybe you didn't go deep enough. Because once you get to that real space, you're going to be at a 7 or higher. So then if you're more than a 7, congratulations, you're ready to start. I love this thing too. And this is about, for all of us who have those inner conversations about guilt, about beating ourselves up, about, you can't do this or you're not good enough. When we talk about what we want, it's usually tied to a pleasure principle rather than lasting satisfaction. Let that sink in for a minute. It's tied to an immediate pleasure rather than a lasting satisfaction. So eating a donut, immediate pleasure, completing your first 5K, lasting satisfaction. Do you see the difference? Because it took a lot of work to get up to that 5K, and then you completed it, and you're empowered, and you believe in yourself, and you can do whatever you put your mind to. Eating the donut, amazing in 2 minutes, and then it's gone, right? So when we eat, we feel pleasure, and when we stop, the pleasure ends too. So Dr. Anderson just wants us to connect the dots in our brain with that, right? Because our brain is like, dude, we need it. We need the dopamine hit. We're addicted to the sugar. We need it. We need it. We need it. But we have to let the brain know, yeah, but it's gone. The minute that last taste of it leaves my mouth, it's done. It's not a lasting satisfaction. Yeah, Kenny.
And I think it's important right here too, where we're at. Everybody that's in here, or if you're watching the recording, take a breath right now and just think about what you want to accomplish. Just take a pause and think about it for a minute. So this is where, and here again, this is where this program is so different from everything else, because we're not doing a diet right now. We are looking to create something. We're going to create health for the long term that's sustainable. So this is where we start peeling back some layers. And Allie will tell you, before we get through this book, there may be a whole bunch of y'all in tears before we get there. So know that if your day comes, and I've been right there with many of you, because we start breaking through these barriers that have held us back for so long, whether you're not a dreamer, or whether you lack self-confidence, or whether you lack the motivation, or whether you've got a negative mindset. And here again, we are all flawed, but we've got to learn to work through that by leaning in with your coach. So go ahead.
So the habits of health are the things that we're going to bring into our lives that will live on, right? These habits will become our autopilot. They will live on, and their benefits will far outweigh the effort it took for us to get them established. So just know that. Don't get fussy with yourself if you hit a bunch of obstacles with one of these macro habits. It just means this is one that's been hard for you, because there's something in there that's creating a block, and your coach will help you get past that. And then once you do, you've conquered it. Like, it's not a problem anymore. Your brain knows the truth, and it can't keep feeding you the old lies because it knows the truth, right? So that's coming. We're going to look at the 6 macro habits on page 56. So the cool thing is the rest of this element is about going macro habit by macro habit and checking your readiness ruler, your willingness ruler, and what's the third one? Your confidence ruler, right? How confident are you that you can do this? And those are all things, you go over these numbers with your coach, because they are going to help you build that confidence. And they're going to also help you know where to start. Like, I think in the past, maybe a lot of these habits, these macro habits, are one you're like, I've tried to do that, Allison. I've tried to do that. And I fall flat on my face. Well, a lot of times it's because we don't take a good first step. We're trying to climb the mountain in flip-flops. We didn't get our tennis shoes on yet, right? So it's about looking and going, all right, what's something that I can do that's a challenge that will move me forward, but it's not so big of a thing that it's not realistic for me to start there. So as you lose weight, your confidence and motivation will increase and set the path for other macro habits. So that's why we start with the fuelings. The fuelings, you guys know, after week 1, if you've had a rock solid week, if you were able to really stick to it, do the 5 and 1, get your water in, not miss your fuelings, not go longer than 3 hours, you feel amazing after the first week, and your confidence soars because you're like, dude, I can do this. Like, this is doable. So you go, you check that readiness ruler, and then he asks you to break down, why did you say you're out of 10? So I'm just going to share what I put for this first one on page 57. I said I was at a 10, but I am very ready to change when I took this. I was at rock bottom. I didn't want to be there anymore. My number 1 was, I love being healthy. I love feeling amazing and having great energy. My number 2 is, I am committed to lifelong health. I'm done with the roller coaster of the gain and lose. I'm done playing that game. Number 3 is, I want my health to inspire others that they can do the same, including, first and foremost, my kiddos. I want them to understand what a healthy relationship with food looks like, and what a healthy relationship with themselves looks like. It says, what would help you pick the highest number? I picked the highest number because I was that ready. So maybe not all of you are there, but I'm telling you, be very honest in this. Try and really focus on circling the number that you believe is the truth for you right now, not the one that you wish you were. It's important that you do that. That's part of peeling off that Band-Aid, getting in that uncomfortable space. Your confidence ruler. At the point I filled this out, I had already been on my journey 2 weeks. Actually, that's a lie, because we didn't have this book. So it was more than that. It was more like 2 months. And I was at a 10. I definitely thought I would achieve my goal because I'd already had so much success in 2 months. And I knew that if I took 2 steps backwards when I hit an obstacle, that I'd be able to pick myself up and move forwards. So I didn't doubt myself and my ability to do it anymore. So that's going to be interesting. So I want you guys to unpack this. So what Kenny and I are going to do really quickly is we're just going to go through each of the macro habits. So the first one is the healthy weight management. The second one is eating healthier and better hydration. So, the healthy weight management is, learning to be a grazer. It's learning what a healthy lean and green looks like. It's understanding, good carbs and better carbs and best carbs, right? Because they're not all created equal. And better hydration is pretty obvious. It's just making sure you get that water in. It's an important part of our body. All of our systems in our body need water. So then we're going to go through the willingness, confidence, and readiness ruler of that. And then we're going to talk about moving more, that healthy motion. All right. So for those of you who are in the very first week or the first 3 weeks of your journey, I know it says in here that we're not doing any hardcore exercise, but what I did was I just paid attention to how much am I sitting? Do I try and get the closest parking space at the grocery store? How much am I avoiding having to move around? What are some things I can do in my day to just make sure I'm moving a little more? You might buy a Fitbit or something that tracks your steps. It's just about building awareness, building that awareness. And your willingness to look into that, to see where you are right now. If I have a low number in any of those things, I just look at it as an opportunity to make it better. It's not an opportunity to beat up Allison. It's an opportunity to work to make it better. Sleeping better. This one is huge. I didn't even realize this one was a thing, but my sleep habits were so bad. And just getting a good night's sleep made a huge difference in my mental well-being, not just being able to focus and have better motivation, but it also just helped with my emotional management, period. Getting a good night's sleep. So, how important to you is it to change your sleep habits? Maybe some of you already have great sleep habits. Maybe that's not an area you need to work on, right? But I had horrible sleep habits. So I had to I couldn't just be a lazy bum and go and, be on my phone until literally I put it down, rolled into bed and cut off the light. That wasn't creating good sleep. I had to go, all right, what are you willing to change? Are you willing to make a bedtime routine? And I did little baby steps, and now I have this really awesome bedtime routine that by the time I finish it up, I am all ready to climb in that bed and pass out. And it makes all the difference in the world. A healthier mind. This one was my jam because I came to this program with the anxiety and depression. So this one was hard for me to fill out this chart, but my willingness was at a 10. I was tired of being in that depression pit. So, and y'all, I had no clue how to get a healthier mind. And it's because I didn't realize I'd never paused and built an awareness of what's going on in here during the day. What's going on in here, when I'm triggered by different things. Why do I react like that? Is that an honest reaction? Is that an honest emotional assessment of what's going on? And I started to build this awareness and realize, man, the way I look at stuff is through a really negative lens. So I need to start changing that. And I have the power to change that. So I started building 3 things that I could start doing to have a healthier mindset. And, that's, for example, element 4, which we'll get to in a few weeks, and element 23. So there's elements for all of these habits. Better surroundings. We start to tackle this one when our kit arrives, right? Because what's the first thing your coach says? You get up in that pantry and you take out all those Oreos and those Sweet Thins and those potato chips and that soda and get it out of here. When you walk in that pantry, there should be nothing on the addiction scale hanging out in there. But I didn't realize that also meant with my mindset stuff, I needed to have better surroundings with people. I needed to distance myself from some people who liked to hang out in the negativity pit with me. And that was hard. So what was my willingness to do that? That was hard. That was a hard one because it meant those people that I would normally hang out with, I'm going to step back a little bit. What were 3 things you can do to start having a healthier mindset? So that was wonderful. I got to write down 3 steps that I could work on when I was ready to get to this element. Now, for me, better surroundings was one. I was better than I thought in that one, but healthy mindset, I dived into those 3 right away. So what we're doing before you start freaking out and being like, oh my God, there's 6 things and there's 3 things under each one, we're just going to fill this out now. And then you're going to decide which one you want to work on. Please do not try and work on 3 things in 6 habit areas every single day. You will go bananas. Like we're not trying to do that. We're just getting creative. We're building confidence. We're getting out of that emotional mindset, moving to that creative, curious thinking mindset as we fill this out. But then you will come back to this when you're ready to conquer the different, whichever macro habit you want to do. Other areas, any other important areas we've not addressed above should be written down as we begin your new journey. So I want to share something personal with you guys. So a year ago, I wrote down another area that was important for me to address was my marriage. So my marriage was in a bad place. Emotional management, all of those things, I needed to do a lot of healing. And it was important to me because I love my spouse. I love my family. And I wanted to do everything I could to work on and take ownership that was mine to help and heal that relationship. And I will tell you, a year later, after some really hard stuff, after some really uncomfortable moments, after some getting out of the familiar, which wasn't serving us as a couple, and moving into new territory, my marriage is in a really good place. And I'm so thankful to say that, because before I wrote that down, I didn't know if we were going to make it. So in my saying this, I want you to understand, some of you might be watching this or might be in here right now with us, watching it now, and might feel this is silly to do this. But it's so weird, but there is something very powerful about writing it down. I don't know what the heck it does, what writing something down does, putting it in your heart and that's not your heart, your brain and your heart and your spirit. But when you write it down, something happens inside and it becomes something that you fight for. So I'm so thankful I wrote that down. Yeah, Kenny.
You know, and I think, and congratulations, you've come a long way. I know it's not been an easy road.
He knows.
but so, and I will say this, what she has learned over this last year may not have happened had she not been in a place where she was in the year prior to that, because she's been learning how to work through these things and how to gain that emotional management. We're going to dive into that with element 4. You guys do not miss element 4.
Do not miss element 4.
But the great thing is with this whole process, it's a creative process. And so some of you may say, well, I don't really want to exercise. That's okay. We're not telling you to go to the gym, but we're telling you to, just like Ali said, focus on what can you do in your daily activity just to maybe add some steps, something simple as that. And, the other thing is what you start writing down on paper. If you don't write this down, just like Alice said, it's not going to come to fruition, because once you open that space up in your brain's going to go to work every day when you're out and about to find what you're looking for to bring it to you. So if you're looking for ways to get more healthy emotion in, and you'll be driving to the grocery store and you're like, well, Alice said, maybe if I park a little further from the store, there you go. That's one example. And that's example of what we call your reticular activating system. So, and here again, so Chris Powell, the Biggest Loser guy that does The Biggest Loser, he has had people on his show, they get to their goal weight and they look in the mirror and they go, I'm still fat. And guess what? When they tell themselves that they look fat in the mirror, your body and your brain will go to work to prove you right every single time.
Yep.
So this is where you're going to learn. Here again, right now, we're not talking about food. We're talking about controlling your emotions, controlling your thoughts, and applying that to your everyday situational awareness, if you will. Is it easy? No. Is it going to be perfect? No.
No.
It's definitely not going to be perfect. But if you execute that awareness, and Ali and I talked about this before we jumped on tonight, just some of the situations I've been in this week where it's a lot of stress, and all of a sudden I just put that picture of my daughter at graduation and me standing by her feeling good. I was able to conquer those situations and challenges and make a good choice and move through it, knowing that I'm stepping in the right direction. And so that's what this whole process is about, is definitely that awareness. And, next week with element 3, we're going to discuss how do you create what you want. And so I'm going to stop recording, and then we'll kind of go to our little session where we